First fall without school. As summer wrapped up, I entered my first fall without any schooling whatsoever. Just pure, adult work life. I felt surprisingly excited about it because it seemed to be a foundational rite of passage in life, putting time in at an entry-level job, working on creative pursuits in my spare time, and finding ways to live frugally. Additionally, I took control of my unhealthy diet. Instead of eating mostly frozen fatty foods, I shopped at the Asian market down the street and got ingredients to make bulk miso soups. This diet change combined with going on frequent runs resulted in a major weight loss, the removal of at least 2 years' worth of solid depression from my college years. To top it all off, my music had a new powerful edge to it, and I knew that I was entering a realm of professionalism. Right at the beginning of the fall, it was Omar's senior year, and Cassie broke up with him. The result was the three of us still living together for the entire year, despite Omar and Cassie ending the relationship, and our friend Kodatron filled Andreas's room. Kodatron and Omar were solid friends, and I very much enjoyed sharing space with them and having conversations. Over the summer, us 4 housemates all went down to the lake beach together for the 4th of July fireworks, which was also a day I had decided to connect to DSL. I figured I shouldn't pass up the opportunity to witness fireworks with a toe in the great unknown, something I probably wouldn't try to do again. It was a humorous time, and I connected with Kodatron through listening to old emo-type music from high school. In early September, I decided to join Kodatron at a Papadosio show, a band I didn't listen to, but thought seemed cool enough. Kodatron was a huge fan and was excited that I had some mycospawn I was willing to donate to the experience. We each took rather small amounts, so as to be safe, but they were still plenty effective doses. He paid for an Uber, and we both started coming up on the way over to the show, not expecting the mycospawn to creep up so soon. It was all good fun though, as we cracked up in the back seat and made our way into the venue. I don't remember much of what happened in there, except for the following torrent of neural pathways that were no doubt the games of psilocytes. I stared off into the backdrop of the stage, and for a second saw a skeleton face made of light, as if I had stared at a skull-shaped sun, and it had thus made me see the skull on a blank surface. Following this, I watched Kodatron as he head-banged to the music and smiled widely. Though I was happy for him, I wondered why Papadosio didn't do the same thing for me. I looked over my shoulder, half paranoid, half bored, and saw 2 young girls dancing in a ridiculous fashion. They were wiggling their arms horizontally like they were Squidwards, and attempting to move the rest of their bodies in the same way. They were both quite attractive, but looked a little too similar to one another, as if they were 2 aliens pretending to be interchangeable young female Papadosio fans. A man wearing a drug rug and too many pins on his hat slithered into the scene, and the 2 alien girls took orbit. After their many rotations around him, the man gave the girls some pills, and they promptly took off elsewhere. It was an interesting ritual, and part of me really wanted to know more, regardless of the other part knowing I had no business getting involved, and for my own good probably. After the show, we decided to walk home and had some neat conversations I can't remember the finer details of. We reached a funny conclusion, or idea, in which I expressed that I was complacent in the filth with respect to many areas of my life. I felt a sense of hopelessness about finding real love, complacent with the filthy truth of the game. Moreover, I couldn't stop being sabotaged by my affirmations. Everything I wanted to say with certainty seemed to lean too far to one side of a fundamental dichotomy that nothing could escape. It was more humorous than anything, but the experience had a different edge than I expected, like some meta-analysis of social dynamics. Still, It was a funny time with Kodatron and good memories of our cohabitation back in that day. I had another mycospawn experience that early fall, but in the company of Omar. It was an odd time for me to take this moderate amount of mycospawn, considering I had no one to take it with, and Omar had just gone through a breakup. He sat in the living room trying to study for an exam he was stressed about, visibly depressed and feeling hopeless about it all. Of course, I didn't notice this to such an extreme until after I had consumed the mycospawn. It was an experiment I was trying. Apparently, letting mycospawn sit in a shot of lemon juice for some time before consuming it made one's entry into the great unknown much faster and vivid. I was down for a quick, powerful excursion into the great unknown via mycospawn, simply in virtue of having nothing else going on that day, and also because I had been going strong with the DSL all summer and wanted to get back to a more natural way to enter the great unknown. I took the lemon juice mycospawn shot and sat on the left side of the couch, with Omar on the far right side continuing to study while the pre-game show for a football game was on the television. I spent 10 minutes or so filled with giddy laughter as I poked fun at the mundanity of the sportscaster's commentary. Why did they always make the most obvious statements? These people possessed more or less hollow jobs. As soon as I was done thinking all of this, I noticed that the sound on the TV sounded a bit buffered and distant all at once, as if it was slowly ceasing to exist. Then a resultant ringing came into my ears, and the light-hearted kidding about the sportscaster now came across as insignificant and immature. Was the guy's hair now a slightly different colour, or a spotted sort of breed? Then my gaze shifted toward the ceiling to my left. Elongated ovals faded in and out of focus on the blank white ceiling, until I understood that they were the legs of an arachnid entity, and the head of this being was almost identical with the head of an Olmec, as seen in giant statues. The Olmec spider entity revealed itself to me and calmly smiled as it faded out of vision. As if snapping out of it, I jumped and turned to Omar, bewildered by what I saw. He gave a light chuckle and commented, "Whoa!" and went back to his studying. I was impressed with the power of psilocytes given the addition of lemon juice. It was comparable to the onset of when I consumed TMD and saw the serpent with my face. The internet was not kidding about lemon juice intensifying the experience, but I soon thereafter learned that they also weren't lying about how short the juice made the whole shebang. I engaged with no other prominent visuals and felt inclined to do little but my laundry. At one point, I did end up getting conversationally deep with Omar, understanding that he was really in the dumps about the breakup. I was happy to be of psychological assistance to my friend, and he later took me out to a fancy Turkish restaurant as a thank you. On the walk over, I remarked how the mycospawn had somehow made our surrounding environment seem new to me again, even though I had walked down these very streets many times before. There was a slight sense of novelty to the most boring of things, and I thanked psilocytes kindly for this refreshment.